This week we're going to go ahead and talk about instruments used for routine care and maintenance. So we've got those types of instruments and supplies on the left-hand side, and then we're going to write the depiction or description on the right-hand side along with the uses of those instruments. We've got our identification notes in our ID resources. We have a few different links here on management practices for animals in livestock as well as in wildlife. So when we talk about management practices, we often talk about items used in routine care and maintenance. So these articles are also going to be a great help into our disease research project. So definitely take a look at those, and you'll get a better idea of when we talk about managing our wildlife populations or even our animals in captivity, what we are talking about. And these routine care and maintenance instruments are a vital part in our management of our animals. So we'll go ahead and get started with our Quizlet set. So we're going to go ahead and first talk about our tattooing instruments. So believe it or not, we do tattoo our animals. We can tattoo many different species of animals, and this is going to permanently place numbers or letters inside of either the ear, lip, or abdominal cavity, etc. in any given animal. We are starting to, now in the past few years, we've started to tattoo our female dogs and cats when they've been spayed, so that way we know by looking at them externally whether or not they've been spayed. So unless you have a record of that, you're not able to visually see from a female mammal if they've been spayed or not, because their organs are internal versus a male mammal that may have external testes, right? In the scrotal sac, you're able to see and identify whether or not they've been castrated or neutered just by visualizing that. So they would not need a tattoo versus those female animals. So we can also look inside of a rabbit's ears. Tends to be where they're tattooed, along with your ferrets as well. So you'll oftentimes see ferrets with tattoos inside of their ears. So here is our tattooing instrument. This is just one example that can be used. You'll also find just regular tattooing guns as well. But so here is our needles. We place our ink on the needles, and then this flat part right here is going to be behind that area of skin, and we'll put the ear or lip right in between there of what we want to get tattooed, and then we'll just press it together, and that will cause that tattoo there. Next, we have pig tooth nippers. So your pig tooth nippers are going to be just that. They are going to clip the sharp little needle edges of the baby pig's teeth to prevent them from damaging the sow's teats. So we are going to allow our piglets to nurse, and we want to make sure that that sow is as comfortable as possible. Those piglets' teeth are very sharp. Now, it's not going to hurt the piglets to have their teeth nipped. We're not getting to the root of those teeth. We are just getting off that very tip of it that's sharp. So we don't need to worry about causing them that pain. It is done right away as well. So they're pretty resilient. Again, this is to provide comfort to the sow, so that way she does still feed. Otherwise, if she was getting harmed by those piglet suckling, then she would not want to suckle, and then you'd have to figure out how to supplement those piglets feeding, right? So unfortunately, it is safer in the long run for us to use those. And here we have those nippers right there. So they just have a very sharp edge in between that metal handle. Next, we're going to talk about two different dehorners. We have a Barnes dehorner. This is going to be a hinged dehorner. It's a closed set of sharp scoops, which is placed over the horn against the base and surrounding skin. The opening the handles forces the cutting edges together, slicing through the skin and underneath the horn. So this, and when we dehorn an animal, we are dehorning them when they are very, very young. That way they have enough time to heal from that. And it is best to do those things when they are younger. Again, we're dehorning those animals to make sure that they are not causing injury to themselves or others if they're in a herding situation or if humans are going to be handling them. So here we have that opening is going to go to that base of where that horn and flesh are, and then you're going to pull it apart, and that pulling apart is going to cause the edges to come in. Next, we have a electric dehorner. These are probably going to be the ones that you see more often. This is pretty much just a big cauterizing gun. So what's happening is it's going to cauterize or heat up the horn-producing cells to prevent further growth by using that high heat at the actual horn bud. So sometimes you do miss some of the skin, and so you'll get little nubbins or some of the cells, but overall this is a pretty effective way of dehorning your animals. So here it just is electric gun, right? So it just heats up just like a hot iron or a flat iron for those of you that flatten your hair, even a curling iron, right? It's that same concept. We are just cauterizing and burning those cells to damage them to the point where they're not going to grow. Next, we have our dental floats. So when we are going to be grinding down the teeth of equine or large animals or even ruminants, we talk about floating their teeth. Now, we're not going to put water in their mouth to see if their teeth float out of their mouth, but what we're doing is we're actually grinding or filing their molars. In the wild, they're going to be eating far more roughage, variety of different things, where in captivity, we're giving them grain food, and so they're not getting that same grinding that they would in the wild. So what we have to do is float their teeth, or we file down their molars. This can be on a large scale or very small scale for chinchillas and rabbits. Even your guinea pigs can have their teeth floated, again, if they're not grinding or eating properly. So here are some large scale floats or rasps. So this is what we're going to use. It's very small, this little dental float. And that is just the isolated area that we want to get into the back of the mouth and be able to grind and just file the teeth with. Next, we have a dental scaler. So a scaler is actually what we use when we're removing stains and plaque and things. So when we think of a dental cleaning for our animals, we're doing a dental prophylaxis, and we're using an instrument called a scaler. So this is used, oftentimes it is an ultrasonic scaler nowadays with some liquid coming out of it. So you'll see we have water aspect to it, and then it works by vibrating ever so slightly, but it will cause some heat. So it is going to remove stains, plaque, bacterial debris. So this is a scaler. So this is a handheld scaler. We also have large pressure or water powered scalers as well, the ultrasonic scalers that we'll see in larger machines, but here is just a handheld scaler. So when we're cleaning the teeth, we are scaling them. Next, we have the Chokar and Canola. So Chokar and Canola is pretty awesome. It's a sharp-pointed surgical instrument fitted with a cannula. So the Chokar part is almost, if you think of just a pointy stabby end of a stick, okay? And then the cannula goes around it. And so it's used to insert into a body cavity as a drainage outlet. So we often see large Chokar cannulas on cattle where we want to do some research, or for us just as a cool curiosity thing, we'll be able to actually insert a cannula around where the rumen is in the stomach, and so then you can actually place your hand inside of a rumen. We'll see a picture of this at some point. But if there is a gas buildup in a rumen, we can go ahead and use this Chokar and cannula to expel that gas, or again, fluid and drainage. So you have, this is going to be your Chokar, which is going to allow you that needle, that point. This goes inside of the cannula, and then when you stab the animal or you place it, right, you have to use quite a bit of force and pressure. You place that in, you pull out the Chokar, the cannula is left. So that way you're not getting any of that you're able to keep a space open. And then that flesh or that exposed skin isn't really exposed. This is going to be definitely a clean, sterile procedure, so you're not causing any bacteria or foreign pathogens to come in if you can help it. Next, we have our ear notcher. So aside from tattooing, we will also notch our animal's ears. This is going to pretty much, instead of just piercing an ear, we're just taking a little slice of it off. So you're making a permanent identifying mark on the ears. We use this with pigs, with goats, with sheep. We can use this even in laboratory animals. So I actually, one of my jobs at Brookfield, they were doing a mouse population study. So I actually had to take little mice and use an ear notcher on them as well. So it's kind of a hole punch on the cartilage of the ear. So they heal really well. Again, it's just like us getting our ears pierced or gauging those modifications. So here's a little angle right there. And so you just clip off that little edge, and then the animals all have a specific code. So we'll see pigs have a certain code on how you notch their ears, and this way you can tell the difference between all of your different animals. Then we have a hoof rasp. So a hoof rasp is similar to a float in that it is going to kind of be a giant chisel. We're using this though to grind the hoof wall and smooth the hoof to the desired shape. We will do hoof cleanings, we often hear with equine, right, with our horses, but we will also do these with all of our hoof stock, with our goats, with our cattle. Any of our ungulates will go ahead and make sure that their hoofs are wearing properly, again, because they are not on their natural terrain. And so an animal that is kept in a grass pasture isn't going to have a different wear and tear on their hooves than an animal that is walking around on cement or asphalt and being taken on trail rides. So here is a rasp. So again, it's just pretty much a large float, right? So we have that chiseling edge throughout the whole length of that. Next, we have a hoof knife. So the hoof knife we use to pick and clean. It's a strong, slightly curved knife that's turned with its tip turned lateral on itself to form a tunnel. The flat part of the blade is used to trim the bottom of the hoof wall, and the curved part is to make grooves or cut holes that need to be there for our hooves. Again, this is going to be more in the inside where our frog is at. So if we need to get into there to cut some pieces off, we can use that hoof knife there. So this is what that hoof knife looks like. And then last we have a rectal prolapse ring for swine. So a prolapse is when, a rectal prolapse is going to be when your intestines, your colon protrudes out of your rectum, and that happens with too much pressure from the force of defecating. All animals can do this, humans can do this. It's not a very good thing to prolapse. So in swine production, they've actually made a prolapse ring. So this ring is inserted into the rectum, and it provides a constant opening. That way the swine doesn't have to worry about that pressure, and it can just defecate at will, and so we don't have to worry about the stress of the sphincter or the force and possibly causing that rectum to prolapse. So it is a safety precaution. And those are our routine care and maintenance tools.